Alright, let's start it up. We are back with more Deceive Inc. Today we are back with another tier list for Neon Knights. Today we're doing gadgets. Should go much quicker than my last tier list, which was agents, which of course take forever because you gotta go through which build we're talking about, why, things like that. This is just gadgets, should be much quicker. So much quicker, in fact, that I'm actually going to shove a second tier list in here. That's right, we're going to quickly do a maps tier list real fast to start us off to get us prepared. There's only 4 things here. Whoever made this tier maker has nicely added a picture of Chavez for us to look at. But let's get right in on maps. These are going to be pretty quick. Number 1, Operation Hard Cell. That's an S tier map right there. That one's definitely my favorite. I think it's the most balanced. You got the inside, the outside. You got 3 different floors. The vault is nice. I have no real complaints about Hard Cell. It is just an S tier map. It's also the oldest map, if anyone didn't know. Hard Cell has been around the longest. Apparently back in beta and maybe even alpha, this was the first map. So there you go. Alright, next easy one, Diamond Spire. That is the worst map. I'm not sure I'm actually going to call it D tier. These aren't really tiers. These are just in order. So actually we might just go 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Look at this. Remove row. There we go. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Diamond Spire is the worst map. It's all glass. The sight lines are super long. You can see people from really far away. The sound design is just not done well or correctly, maybe. I mean, it's done correctly, maybe, but like the fact there's the outside portion and the inside, and sound travels farther outside than inside and makes it sound like things are up when they're down. Yeah, a little bit weird. That one's my least favorite. That one is the lowest. Okay, and then these two, this is the tough part. These two are pretty close to me. I think it's Silver Reef in A. Silver Reef I actually really like, even though it's small and you get those chaotic fights, I actually really like those chaotic fights and they are really fun to play. Silver Reef does have 2 major things, possibly the 2 worst things on any map, but it still makes it to my number 2 slot. The first one is the ever complained about Silver Reef C. Silver Reef C only has exactly 1 exit. That is still a thing. Can it be fixed? I don't know, but the fact Silver Reef C continues to only have 1 exit, and I just straight up avoid it in all my Silver Reef games, says a lot. And then the other annoying thing in Silver Reef is those long tunnel hallways in the vault that if you're playing someone like Hans, you just have difficulty getting out of. If you like Larson or someone and you can, or Madame and she can use her snap, you can get out of those before the ping timer goes off, but at base level, the ping is guaranteed to go off when you're in that tunnel, and everyone will know exactly which tunnel you are in, and there's not enough NPCs to hide. And that leaves Fragrant Shore in the B slot here. Honestly, these previously were switched. Fragrant Shore used to be really, really good, but they've locked down all of the shortcuts I used to love, all of those green rooms with open doors on the top, all those little like paths you could take across the whole map, stopping at like most of the green rooms along the way. Like you get from the green room near A to the Shrimpy's green room without touching the ground. You still can, you just can't go in them without spending 3 intel or keycard now. Yeah, it's really fallen from grace. We of course also have the murder trailers, also C point. Tends to be a lot of death in that area, as well as the hotel, which I just die in a lot, and that's probably a personal thing. So there we go, the real quick map tier list out of the way. Someone did ask about that, and I figured it was really quick. I could just be like, here's my personal preference on the maps. All right, now we're gonna hit up gadgets. Again, we're gonna try to go fast. I don't want this to be a half-hour video, so we're just gonna do them in the order they are here. Bounce mat. Bounce mat's an S tier. I assume you'd expect that because it's in most of my videos. I give up the Spyglass before I give up the bounce mat. Bounce mat is probably the best gadget in the game. It does so many things. I'm not going to get into it too deep because I'm actually planning on doing another video on just the bounce mat. But like besides just the movement capabilities, which lets you move to places people without the bounce mat can't, along with surviving fall damage, we all know the A to C on Diamond Spire, the A to B on Diamond Spire. You need the bounce mat for those. Along with just being vertical, moving quickly. Yeah, there's so much the bounce mat can do. It's probably not going to move from that #1 spot. All right, goo pods. Goo pods I think are C. I was thinking D, but I think they're C. Goo pods, of course, have that big slow, and if you're really good at them, which I'm not, you can throw them out activated or not activated. I tend to screw that up, which probably makes it a little lower. Actually, that's probably why I'm putting it in C instead of D. I'm assuming I'm a little bad with it. These don't see a lot of use. They are good in some situations. You can put them under a blue door or purple door when you're either in there or even if you're not in there to cause anyone walking in to be slowed. It doesn't reveal them or anything, but if a fight breaks out, then they either can't get away, although also you can't get away. Worth noting, goo pods do work on yourself. They are slowed if the fight breaks out while they're in that zone, and slow is of course a big deal, allowing you to land all your shots. I think goo pods are just not great. They're hard to use well. There's of course use cases, like I said. You can also, if you're going for like a no kill or bamboozle gameplay, of course run across the map, put the goo pods down at key points to slow people getting to you as you extract. Definitely have uses. I just think those uses are very niche, and sometimes the goo pods are hard to use. All right, hack trap. Hack trap is either A or S. Quickly deciding. I'm gonna go A. Hack trap of course has that trace +3 intel. You can just smack 6 things down as soon as you spawn and then move them as you move through the map. Lets you know if anyone's near you, if they enter the blue room with you without following someone in. You know if they enter the purple room before you or after you. It gives you a lot of intel on who they're disguised as, basically forces them to change disguise or move a distance away. So yeah, it's definitely up there, and you've seen it in a couple of my videos, so you must know that I think it's good. Hollow Mimic. Hollow Mimic is... I think it's B. I think it's B, and B to me is like, this is good. Like, this is kind of good. This is kind of great. This is really good, right? Hollow Mimic does exactly what you want it to do. You become a prop, and you can either hide from players if they don't know the map well enough, and let's be honest, except for like except for terminal rooms, not a lot of people know the map very well. I think if you're hollow mimicking in a terminal room, people spend a lot of time in terminal rooms and generally know the layouts of them, so I don't actually think it's good to hollow mimic in them, let alone the alarms and all the other things, but you can definitely use that to get away. There's of course also the mimic before your cover breaks while being scolded, and then change cover while mimicked. I think hollow mimic does exactly what you want it to do. It's just, I think the main reason it's not taken is other things are just better and you only have 2 slots. So I'm going to call back to a long time ago when the hollow mimic actually hid you from package vision. This was everywhere, right? Like the hollow mimic was basically the best gadget because it also hid you from, it did all that and hid you from package vision. Now that it doesn't do that, and that's really the only change that's happened to it, it's, you know, it's still just as good at all the other things. It's just no longer that top tier gadget it was, and for me it's no longer worth the slot when there's some other ones that we'll see later and have seen already, like these two, that we want to occupy that space. All right, drone. I'm gonna put drone above goo pods and seed, and this is partially because I want to see drone buffed because it's a really cool idea. It's just not good, if that makes sense. You fly your drone around, you trace the person, and you know, then I assume the idea is you go and hunt the traced person down, and they have difficulty getting away because they're traced. You have that wall hack. The difficulty is when you're droning, you have to be standing still, and obviously you can negate that by either being a gadget in your hollow mimic or doing a social interaction, are both great ways to hide that. But yeah, I just don't think the drone is there. The not being able to move while you're droning, and I don't think that's something that I would even like to happen, assuming it was technologically possible, being able to move a drone and yourself at the same time. Yeah, I like the idea of the drone. I just don't think it's good. One thing the drone can do is hold open a door for you. If like a agent, or not an agent, but a NPC opens that door, you can hold it open with the drone. But that's a really niche use, and oftentimes, even when I was just trying to get footage of that happening for a past video, people would just shoot the drone as soon as it stopped moving to hold the door. So yeah, not sure how you would fix it, but I would like to see. I think a drone meta would actually be interesting. Maybe not a meta, but at least having it being a useful, more useful gadget. Again, I guess I didn't really say this at the start, but I'm talking solos only here. Of course, all these things have different varied uses in teams. You can have a dedicated droner in a team game, you know. But I'm not even going to get into that because I don't have that experience. So this is just for solos, where you have to both be the drone pilot as well as the person following the trace. All right, Shield Vela. Shield Vela remains S tier. I mean, I haven't done one of these gadget tier lists before, but it's still S tier. They recently nerfed the hand held version from 75 to 50 HP. 50 HP is still a lot on a shield. I mean, and then the deployed version, you just drop instantly for 100 HP. It can absorb, and it's just a lot of health basically, and you can drop it instantly. And people will argue about the weak spot. The weak spot is nice. So at most, assuming everyone lets that weak spot first try, and people aren't really used to shooting someone's toes, so I don't know, but it absorbs one shot. So one ace weapon 3-shot could have been 81 to 101 damage, or it could have been a Larson weapon 1 bullet that absorbed 8, right? So yeah, the shield remains really strong because it blocks that much damage. You kind of have that advantage of just being able to drop it, and it's going to, on those rapid fire weapons, absorb some amount of that damage no matter what, because people are just holding down the mouse button and have to, you know, consciously stop. And against those slower weapons, it's going to cause them to either have to play your shield game or waste one of their long cooldown, long or slow fire rate shots on your shield weak spot. And this doesn't even talk about the shield swapping that we see from like a Chavez weapon 3 or an ace weapon 1, where you shoot and shield as fast as humanly possible basically, because those weapons have a lot of damage but low fire rate. There's enough time but to basically switch to the shield and hold it in your hand in front of you before you even can fire again, and you're basically just safe when you should not be safe. And I think there is a nerf, or I'm not sure if there was a nerf recently about that, or there is one planned. If there already was one, then it didn't go far enough because this is still an issue. If there's one planned, then we'll see what happens. But yeah, the shield definitely remains S tier, and I think without the core of the shield being changed, it almost will always be S tier, because the ability to just drop a wall in front of yourself is going to be strong. Like, think about it, if you're running for health, you drop a wall and you stand behind it where you get health. Anyone who was chasing you can't close that gap to get on your side of the shield before your health thing goes off, assuming you have any hacking speed. It's just so good in so many situations that it is S tier. I am not going to put it above the bounce mat. Also, it says bounce mat here, and I'm pretty sure in game it's called the bounce pad, but I didn't make this team list. Anyway, so yeah, the shield Bella, S tier, not better than the bounce mat because of the movement options the bounce mat gives you, but still probably the second best, or many people will probably argue best gadget in the game. The Signal Scrambler. Alright, the Signal Scrambler. Honestly, the Signal Scrambler, I'm going to drop in D tier and people are going to get mad. But I'm going to talk about why. The Signal Scrambler is basically the escape valve of gadgets. The purpose I see of the Signal Scrambler is, hey, we screwed up some balance thing and this gadget is running wild. Here's a gadget to turn off all gadgets. It does other things, like prevents hacking, I believe. I've honestly never used it. I've had it used against me. It turns off shields and things. Doesn't really affect hack trap, by the way. But it feels like it's mostly like this gadget is too strong, so I'm just going to turn it off. And we did see that happening during the shield juggling meta. People were pulling out the Signal Scrambler, but I think in a meta game where the Signal Scrambler is best, something has probably gone terribly wrong. So I'm going to put it in D tier, because it's not all that useful right now. I mean, turning off stuff is great, but the opportunity cost of all the other gadgets is probably worth it. In my opinion, it is. And I think it's actually good that this gadget is in D tier. I would not like to see this buff to be an S tier gadget. The kind of prison style effect, for lack of a better word, it locks you out, would not be fun as a top tier gadget. Alright, Spyglass gadget. It's either, I think it's S. Yeah, I'm going to put it in S right now because they reverted the nerf to it a while back, or not a while back, just a couple weeks ago, really. But the Spyglass gadget allows you to hack from range. You can do this while social interacting. You can do this from pretty far away. The only indication anyone has you've been hacking is if they highlight it and see that it's in use, or the safe or door opens. If you're really good at the doors and you're hacking timings, you can walk up and be an NPC basically perfectly with the Spyglass. The Spyglass is really strong in helping you remain hidden as an NPC. So that's why it's where it is. I think if that the change that happened with the hack speed was lowered when you use the Spyglass, it would only be A tier, probably like this, below the hack trap. But that never went through. Well, it did go through for like a week, and then it was quickly reverted. Yeah, I think Spyglass is a top tier gadget. Just for allowing you to remain safe, it lowers the amount of risk you are taking while doing all those hacking gadgets. Hacking actions. There we go. Alright, tripwires. Tripwires fall into B tier. They do exactly what they're supposed to do, and they do it well, and that's about it. right? You're not making fancy tripwire plays. You set them down in those spots and they do the work for you. They don't get you any intel like the hack trap does, but they also can be more difficult to avoid than the hack trap by not following. You know, if you follow an NPC through a door, the hack trap won't get you, but the tripwire will. Again, good tripwire placements will always be at, say, like waist high, or you know, any tripwires basically shouldn't be on the ground unless they're quite hidden, especially if people are using the really bright color inks on your tripwires. You're kind of doing it wrong. I know you can put it on the other side of the door and it's mostly a one-way thing, but some people drop them in like a hallway and they're just the brightest colored thing you've seen, and it's like, well, there's a tripwire there. Yeah. Anyway, that was kind of a digression. They do their thing. They do it well. Could they be better? What would it take for them to push up into A tier? I'm not sure. I think it really depends on the spots and the people you're playing, how good these tripwires are, and how good you are at kind of hiding them or where you're putting them and what you intend to do with them. So I think they are in B, and I think that's an okay spot for them to be. So we'll leave it there. And finally, the turret. The turret, honestly, it's probably the worst gadget. I know I kind of said the signal scrambler was, but the turret's really bad. The turret does a whole 3 damage every time it like ticks, which is about every second in my experience. So 3 damage, not a lot. You know, guards have, normal guards, not even elite guards, have like 30 health or so, or I think elite guards have 30 and regular guards have 15 or so. So like it takes 5 or 10 seconds for it to either kill a guard. It's really loud, so that's going to cause third partying. Also, it takes forever to wind up. If you get ambushed, the time it takes to throw the turret, and then for the turret to realize there's a fight, stand up on its little like stick, and then start shooting, you're probably already dead. It takes forever for the turret to wind up. And then it has its cool camera mode, which is honestly pretty cool. But that's just beaten by the recon drone. Could do the same thing but better. The tripwire and the hack trap can both do very similar, you know, protect this area style moves. Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in the turret. I know it sounds really good on paper. This is its second damage source, but most of the time the right answer is just to ignore that second damage source because it does so little damage. And I'm not sure I want it buffed, maybe a little buff, but for the most part, again, I think if we were in a meta where everyone was running turret, it would be kind of crazy if the turret was generating kills. So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think the turret should ever be S tier. It'd be nice if it was an option. Like these are basically don't use, and these are like sometimes they're options. It'd be nice to push it up a little bit, maybe 1 or 2, but I don't think I ever want to see turret in A or S tier. So there we go. That's the tier list. We came in under 25 minutes here, and we threw in a second little tier list. So there we go. Top 4 there: Bounce Match, Shield Bullet, Spyglass, and Hack Trap are definitely fighting for your 2 slots. There's also the Hollow Mimic and the Tripwire are things you may want to take. Recon Drone, Goo Pods are very specific. I want to do X type gadgets, and the Signal Scrambler and Turret are just probably never take these, with the exception of the Signal Scrambler being, hey, if one gadget really annoys you personally or is just too strong right now, then you can take this and turn it off. So there we go. That's my thoughts. As always, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments. These are all opinions, so won't really start any arguments with you if you have different opinions, but feel free to drop your thoughts. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for daily Deceive Inc content like this. And I will see you guys in the next one.